Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, I will be recounting an event that happened, or an incident that happened, that many of you may recall from last year, and follow with a brief insight of Sister Zainab alayhi salam. We may all remember an incident close to home 16 months ago. A few hours before iftar, we received the news of the passing of a 12-year-old Zainab on a warm Baghdad night, falling victim of a suicide bombing. I am recounting this event because it was a case close to home, and stories like this must not be forgotten, especially when it is relevant to this context. Upon receiving the news, my dad was taking the overwhelming amount of calls from shaken members of the community, offering their help and a handful of prayers. However, two calls in particular were different, one from Dr. Yasser Al-Askari and the other from Sabbary Hakim. Both calls brought our attention to the media, and the underlying question was, what will you do when the media arrives? So my dad was faced with the challenge of swaying his distraught daughters to speak of their cousin's death. Being in a state of complete disbelief and shock, my dad used one figure to convince us, and who better to use than Sister Zainab alayhi salam. One thing he said that resonates till this day was, "You can cry. There will be plenty of time to mourn, but now is your opportunity to speak. Once this opportunity is gone, there will not be another. So speak, as words cannot be delayed. Tears can, but speech cannot." I draw this to Zainab alayhi salam because upon facing harrowing treatment and witnessing the horrific deaths of her family, she remained steadfast and refused to miss the opportunity to speak. Yes, we may call her Zainab al-Masayib, but to me, that is doing the message of Zainab alayhi salam and the Ahlul Bayt a great injustice. Labeling her as al-Masayib instead of a woman of power, a woman with a message, is undermining her efforts. She was the embodiment of strength and resilience. When she approached Yazid and the people of Kufa, she was aware of the people she was speaking to, and thus had carefully thought of the words she had used to address the people. She persisted to spread the word of Karbala and to speak against injustice. Without speaking the words she did in that given time, the message of Karbala would not have reached us. She carried a message that demonstrated the power of words, that we must remain steadfast upon trials and tribulations and not question the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She responded to these trials and claims that she saw nothing but beauty. You see, the Ahlul Bayt and the incidents of Karbala are lessons for you and I. Let us be defiant in times of crisis. Let us not stop at the calamity. The Ahlul Bayt are dear to people from different sects and faiths. For example, Christian scholars render Zainab alayhi salam's words as powerful and continue to express their admiration of the characters of the Ahlul Bayt. The reason for this was because of her words, of the way in which she delivered her message, and of the empowerment of her voice and behavior in times of injustice, in spite of the tragedies that took place. One thought lingered in many minds regarding the aftermath of Zainab's passing, and that was, there are so many attacks that take place. Why is this one getting so much attention? Why did the Eiffel Tower switch its lights off for this particular girl? What makes this story so different to the other attacks? The story was that Zainab Al-Harbiya was testimony that Muslims too are victims of oppression. But more importantly, it was that in which the way the way in which her message was delivered. Any non-immediate family member could have spoken instead of us. However, when we were convinced, the reportage was handled in a professional and controlled manner, also thanks to Sama al-Haddad and Zahra al-Hassani. Again, this exemplifies the impact that the right words can have. When delivered right, the message is sent out in the most effective way. So I depart with the message that, like Zainab alayhi salam, be defiant and resilient in times of crisis and calamity. Do not underestimate the impact your words can have. Just like Zainab Al-Harbiya and Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam, let the world know your message. As I conclude, I would like to honor all of our shuhada, and in particular Zainab Al-Harbiya, who was also an attendee of Beacon of Hope's events. Wassalamu alaikum.